Hey dudes, and welcome back to the Bantz. As always, I am your host, the Bantz, and congratulations, we've made it to the end of another week, which means of course it is time for our second and final What's Happening in Fashion for the week, so let's just get right into it. And first up, of course, we have our headlines for the day, and in our first headline of the day, SoftNet just recently announced that they will be celebrating their 20th anniversary with a subline they are calling Soph.20, so let's talk about it. Now, first off, let me just clear the air here. Yes, SoftNet is actually calling Soph.20 a sub-brand, a diffusion line, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And personally, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, when we're talking about 20th anniversaries for a company, for a brand, it only happens once in the entirety of the brand. So why make an entire brand, an entire line associated to this when it could easily just be a capsule collection or a limited edition collection? Whatever you want to fucking call it, just make it a collection, not a brand. This will also be an online exclusive brand, which, I mean, has its pros and its cons for me. But unlike other online exclusive brands that have been popping up, such as CDG by Comme des Garçons, this one is just once again regarding the 20th anniversary. CDG is actually making dumb shit, but progressively, like they're continuing different seasons of dumb shit. But Soph.20 is just a 20th anniversary collection. Why the fuck are you calling it a brand? And as if this idea wasn't already dumb enough by itself, let's get on to the actual clothing here. So let's start with the apparel, shall we? It's literally just a bunch of solid pieces in either black or white with the SoftNet 20th anniversary logo on it. That's it. There's also a decent amount of accessories to go along with this apparel, but really it doesn't fare much better. And to me, this raises two questions. First up, are you fucking kidding me, SoftNet? I mean, just think about it. This is SoftNet we're talking about, responsible for brands such as their own eponymous line, FC Real Bristol, and of course Uniform Experiment. And you're telling me that this is really the best they could fucking come up with? Are you fucking kidding me? Sure, the brand isn't really well known for its ingenuity, especially over time, but they still have a ton of phenomenal and very creative pieces under their belts. And the bulk of these pieces that they have under their belts still come in a much wider variety of colors than just black and white. So this just leads me all back around to my first question. If you're going to be this lazy and this boring and this fucking bland with your 20th anniversary brand, why even go through with making the brand at all? But this now moves me on to my second question, and that is, why are so many of these large and renowned brands recently just being so fucking lazy with their anniversary collections? I mean, just to name a few that come to mind in literally just recent months, we have the Stone Island Shadow Project 10th anniversary, which was, albeit alright in my opinion, but nothing necessarily extraordinary. We have this awful fucking collection. We have the Diamond Supply 20th anniversary, which was really just a Basquiat collaboration, and by far the worst of all was that Bape 25th anniversary collection, which was almost as boring as this. Just think about it. If you had your own streetwear line that lasted, let's say, 5 years, 10 years, or even 20 plus years, like some of the ones I just mentioned, wouldn't you at least be somewhat excited about it? Personally, I'd be over the fucking moon if I could get a streetwear brand to 5 seasons, let alone 5 years, and every single brand I just mentioned either doubled or quadrupled that, and this is how they show it. This is what they're repaying to their fans who have stuck around for literally decades. But with all that said, let me just pass off some questions to you. What do you guys think about this 20th anniversary collection? Do you enjoy it? Do you hate it? Do you fall somewhere in between? And what do you feel about how I feel about all these anniversary collections? Do you think that they're just kind of a gimmick? Or do you think that they should actually put some effort into it? Or do you think that companies shouldn't even be doing these at all? Whatever your opinion, I'd really like to know. Then in our second headline of the day, we finally got to see the drop of the newest Moncler Genius collaboration, this time with Craig Green. And oh boy, is it a fucking doozy. Now, for those of you who don't remember when Moncler first announced their Genius collaborations, they really had an amazing variety of designers in there. They had the much lighter, much more versatile and easy wear pieces from brands or designers such as Hiroshi Fujiwara. They had the pieces that fell somewhere in the middle that felt a little bit more elegant, a little bit more designed, but still fairly wearable, such as the latest Noir collection. And of course, lastly, and how could we possibly forget, they even had a couple very avant-garde designers making some very incredibly creative pieces that had absolutely no wearability to them whatsoever, such as this Craig Green collection here. And really what you have to remember, or what some people often tend to forget when you're talking about avant-garde or haute couture, is that sometimes these are just mediums for creativity, to show off what can actually be worn on the human body and how far you can really push your creative limits in that form. But just because you can do that doesn't mean that it's functional in any wearable sense. And that's how I personally feel about this Craig Green collaboration here. But of course, there are some really fucking retarded people out there, which we like to call influencers, who obviously just immediately picked these up and went straight to Instagram to get all the internet clouds and points they could possibly get their hands on. And man, do they look fucking stupid. Like, I'll just throw a couple images that I've personally seen on screen, but really, like, who in their right mind would try to pull this off, let alone just even wear these pieces correctly? Like, what you're doing doesn't make you cool and doesn't make you look cool. All you're really doing is taking a piece of wearable art and throwing it out into the street with your dumbass in it and just dirtying it up instead of leaving it on a rack or in a museum where it should belong. Yeah, that's really the gist of my rant, unfortunately. There's not a really good way to end this story, so I'll just try to conclude it on something that we can all really agree on, and that is, of course, fuck influencers. Okay, and with our headlines now done, let's move on to our art stories for the day. And first up, photographer Azuma Makoto showed off some of his newest works, and these are just incredible in my opinion, showing just a flower above and below water. The juxtaposition between the buds in bloom and the roots makes for some very creative photos, and they were brilliantly shot here, so if that sounds interesting to you, I'd definitely check these out. Then it was announced that Yayoi Kusama would be collaborating once again with MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, to release some new skateboard decks with her artwork on it. Really some nice designs here, exactly what you'd expect from her. And if you're willing to drop $200 on a piece of her art, which for some of her works is actually fairly cheap, I definitely go to their site and check this out. And lastly, Hypebeast sat down with Aaron Rose of the renowned Alleged Gallery in New York City to talk a little bit about his history, how the gallery came around, and basically what he's done since then. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, I'd definitely give this a read as well. Alright, and now moving back into our fashion stories for the day. First up, Fear of God's subline Essentials showed off of their Fall/Winter 2018 collection, and God, is it fucking awful. So for those of you who don't remember, basically what the Essentials subline is it's taking all those bland and boring and overproduced, copied, and completely way too expensive ideas that Jerry is known for, and just throwing the word essentials on them, because why the fuck not? You know, for a man that believes God put him on earth to design clothes, it's a real shame that he didn't give him the creativity to back up those claims. And you can really tell that he put all of his creativity into this one. I mean, check out those Converse. They definitely don't look anything like the Vans he's done before. And check out those socks. They say essential on them. And check out those shorts that he's also never done before. Truly, just truly mind-blowing stuff here, especially when he throws the word essential on it. And then, I mean, wow, I mean, just take a look at some of these tops here. They all say essential. It's just, God, what a fucking Da Vinci. So remember, if you find any of this stuff cool, then by all means go out and buy it, but make sure to also unsubscribe from this channel while you're at it, because you're definitely not learning anything here from me. So with all that now said, let's finish off this story the same way I finish off every Fear of God story I talk about. Jerry Lorenzo, go fuck yourself. Then Polo Ralph Lauren showed off the return of their 90s high-tech collection, and man, Ralph Lauren is just fucking killing it right now. I mean, between this collection, the CP93 collection, the Snow Bunny collection, just to name a few, I mean, Ralph Lauren has been doing amazing with this resurgence of 80s, 90s revival. Just fucking murdering it. Now, for all of you out there who might be hemming and hawing at the idea of Ralph Lauren doing technical wear, let me just first remind you that this is a reiteration of things they have already done in the past nearly 20, 30 years ago. But on top of this as well, a couple years ago, unfortunately the brand is dead now, Ralph Lauren actually had a subline called RLX, which is a activewear / techwear line that Ralph Lauren did that was absolutely fucking phenomenal. It just unfortunately never caught on. Quick side note, by the way, if you are a fan of techwear and specifically lunarcore, try and find some of those pieces. They were pretty much grail tier for lunarcore. But now let's go back to the pieces at hand, shall we? First off, let's look at some of the lighter pieces, the more wearable pieces. And really, if you're even a small fan of color, of maximalism, or even just the slightest fan of 90s revival, then definitely check these pieces out. They are just simply amazing. And this is coming from somebody who really doesn't like this revival. But then moving on to those technical pieces, I mean, just look at these pieces. If you even had a shadow of a doubt that Ralph Lauren could do tech wear, that should pretty much be silenced now. The designs are great, the colors are interesting, the details and the aesthetics are super on point and super technical, and even more so than that, super functional, which of course is the main point of techwear. So overall, just major props to Ralph Lauren for just another fucking killer collection here, and really showing that, you know, there are people out there who can do 90s revival correctly. Although I guess that's probably a little bit easier for him because he's already done it once before. And lastly, Shayne Oliver, of course, of Hood by Air fame, just showed off his newest collaboration with brand Colmar, and it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect from him. For those of you who didn't know, Colmar is a brand that's pretty much associated with outerwear, specifically jackets, sort of in a similar fashion to a Moncler or a Canada Goose. So of course, in true Shayne Oliver fashion, he took these pieces they are so well known for and just completely flipped them on their heads. Or does wrap them up tightly and bondage gear sound better? We see a wide variety of silhouettes, all the way from skin-tight thigh-high boots made out of this puffy jacket material, all the way down to that very trendy, oversized look that I will say Shayne Oliver does fairly well here. We also see some very interesting aesthetic choices here, such as jackets that hang off the back in a very kind of vintage helmet length fashion, as well as some asymmetrical hoods which are sometimes rotated 90 if not 180 degrees, which of course make absolutely no sense outside of just looking weird. And all of these pieces are done in in a wide selection of different colors and colorways, something that I've never seen Shayne do before, and I have to say, he pulls it off fairly nicely here. But still, my favorite thing about this collection, and really the most funny thing about this collection, is that it is still loads, and I mean loads more wearable than the Craig Green collection. Like, why are people even trying? It's fucking stupid. And finally, with our fashion out of the way, let's move on to our articles for the day. And first up, Grail put out a very interesting article on the love affair that they have, and that I guess you could say we have, with archival fashion, kind of going over what it means to be an archivist, what people are doing along with it, how they're trying to be preemptive about it, and even how brands are reproducing their pieces and whether or not that is hurting the vintage pieces. A very interesting read overall, and if you're a fan of really history of fashion, I definitely look into this. Then CNN, of all places, put out a very interesting, albeit somewhat small article on the psychology behind wearing uniforms and how that affects people in general, but specifically cults. It's a very interesting read, goes over the history of cults and their fashion choices, and if any of that or even the psychology of fashion interests you, definitely check this out. And lastly, The Guardian sat down once again for an interview with growing designer Craig Green to talk about what he's been doing since their last talk, what he's up to now, and what plans he has for the future. So if you want to read into a little bit more about the designer, definitely check this out as well. Alright, and with that, guys, we finally finished our second and final whiff for the week. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and as always, if you want to check out some of the lookbooks I wasn't able to include or read some of the articles I talked about today, I've linked everything in the description down below. And if you are new here, then welcome to the channel. We do these what's happening in fashion videos twice a week at the beginning and end of the week, plus another occasional video here or there. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, if you just have any questions, comments, concerns, or even just want to talk fashion, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I'm always willing to talk about it. And thank you all once again for watching these videos and supporting my content. As always, I hope you guys have a great weekend ahead of you, and until next time.